Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2017. And we are so glad that you have decided to join us to watch or listen to the Theotech podcast tonight. And since it's the first podcast of 2017, tonight we're actually going to do Tech New Year's resolutions. And so each of us will share maybe some New Year's resolutions related to technology that we plan to make. And then we're also going to recommend some things maybe you should be doing in your church. But before we do that, let's introduce everyone. The man chewing on his pizza is none other than the great Antoine Wright of Mobile Ministry Magazine. Hello, Antoine.
Hey, guys.
What kind of pizza are you eating?
DiGiorno, the spicy chorizo.
Is that good?
It's really good.
All right.
It's got the peppers and all that good fun stuff on it, but it's DiGiorno, so it's like delivered. But it's not.
I got to get you back in the pizza belt, Antoine. Start calling DiGiorno pizza. We're having problems.
It is. It's really.
And that is none other than the great Wes Allen, who is a fine pastor as well as the tech guru for the American Baptists in New Jersey. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm good. We're glad that you are here tonight with us. And then LaRosa Johnson is the third part of my partners in crime tonight. And LaRosa is with the Urban Scholar and author of the great Raw Material, which I recommend highly. And I think you should all run out right now and pick up a copy of it. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a book for all Christians, new believers, and older Christians alike, just giving them steps and tools to help cement them in their faith, especially for new believers, really give them a quick jump start.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good book. Have you guys had a chance to read it?
I haven't. I need to.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, it's not, as pastors or more mature believers, we'll find it very basic, but that's kind of your intention, wasn't it? To be basic for new believers and believers who want to maybe recommit themselves. So, and I thought it was pretty good. In fact, I bought a few, I think 3 of them to hand out to new members. And so I need to probably pick up a few more because I've already given them out. And the one of the ladies that I gave it to, she loved it. I mean, she came back and was just like, wow, this is great. She had kind of recommitted herself to her faith, and I said, here, read this. This is an excellent tool for new believers. Well, let's jump into our topic tonight. Who wants to start off and kick us off? Wes, why don't you go for it?
Sure. I had 2. Do you want me to give them both, or we're going to alternate?
Go for it.
All right. Well, my first is I have the last couple of years I've been using the Bible app, YouVersion, to do my devotional reading, and I am switching back to Olive Tree for this year. So yeah, Antoine, you win.
Antoine is with Olive Tree, in case you didn't know.
Yeah,
he's an employee of Olive Tree.
No, LaRosa's with Olive Tree.
I'm sorry, that's what
LaRosa's with it. Yeah. So yeah, it's multitude of reasons for it. I just wanted to get back to Olive Tree. I kind of liked the way their plans worked, and I was starting to get just a tad bit annoyed with like the constant notifications, like someone started a Bible app or Bible reading. I'm like,
yeah, that part of the YouVersion app does get a bit annoying.
And it just follows you around. So I was like, I'm going to go back to Olive Tree. I like flipping through instead of scrolling through reading, and we'll see how this works for the year. Bible was very good for me for 2 years. But my second is I've been playing around on my iPad Pro with an app called Adobe Capture CC. I'm actually
wait. Before you jump into that,
what's that?
Let's just talk a little bit about Bible reading in general.
Sure.
Obviously, it's a great thing to do. All of us would say yes. You should find your way of doing a daily, or at least as close to daily as possible, Bible reading. And do you have any tips, any ideas if someone's wanting to jumpstart? Maybe they've never really done Bible reading, or maybe they haven't done it in a long time. What do you think? Anything?
I got a couple. First is you really want to want to have it set in a specific time, that this is just the deal I'm making. This is when I do this no matter what. So for me, it is literally the first thing I do on any device when I wake up in the morning, except unlock it. And that includes, like, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I am indisposed, that's the first thing I do. We'll just put that out there. Just because that's the habit. I want it to be the first thing I do in any given day. And that's worked out really well for me. And it's back when I used to do it haphazard, I would miss a lot more days than I do now. I think the second, it's kind of, sometimes it's hard for pastors because we're used to reading all this stuff and kind of navigating through it shoals and reading commentaries to figure out things that we don't know. I would always say that as much as personal devotions are a good thing, I think sometimes we elevate that to, like, the quiet time as being like the pinnacle of Christian spirituality. And I think maybe we start needing to read the scripture in community again, and actually, go back and relearning, even if it's just putting questions out on Facebook and saying, I don't have a clue what this means. You don't have to deal with the snarky, people like me. But at least you can get some insight back, and hopefully you get some stuff that's actually useful back. So those are two points that I'd make.
Yeah, those are good points. And the thing about, you open up, it's the first thing you do on a device when you get up in the morning. I would say, kind of along those lines, if you're the kind of person who just cannot make yourself not follow all those notifications while you're reading, then either turn off the notifications or
Airplane mode.
Or just airplane mode. That's a great
thing.
point. Unless you're, of course, using one of those Bible apps that require you to be online. You don't have that problem with Olive Tree, do you?
Nope.
But honestly, I'm the tech guy. I love my tablets. I love my iPad, my phone. But if you're that person, get your paper Bible out. I mean, you don't get email notifications in your paper Bible.
Well, I don't get those anyway. I mean, I have my notifications pared down so much that I get almost nothing. It's usually text, and no one's texting me at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And even then I have it on Do Not Disturb. So it's a great thing.
Here's another trick. If you don't want to get an app or something like that, or you just want to read, you don't want to go through some kind of Bible reading plan, because every one of these apps has Bible reading plans, right? Some are better than others, but if you're just trying to get yourself into the habit, there's 31 chapters in Proverbs. There's 31 days in January. Use the Bible as your calendar this month. It's not too late to start.
Yeah, I'm actually going through a book by a friend of mine.
Started with Proverbs for the year. Wow.
Yeah, like I've got a buddy of mine. I was watching a teaching that he did. It was a few years ago now, but one of the things he said that he does to keep to stay in the Word consistently is he reads a chapter in Proverbs every day, and he keeps a notebook too along with that for the ones that stand out. And it's like, okay, how am I going to apply these in my life? Because I mean, if you're reading the entire chapter of Proverbs, you're not going to apply all of it, but like pick the ones that stick out and make note of that. And then he also said he reads the gospel every month just to keep Jesus in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are good points. All right, go into your second one, Wes. Unless, Antoine, you wanted to chime in on this. No? Okay, go ahead, Wes. What's your second one?
And everything. My second one is I've been using on my iPad Pro an app called Adobe Capture CC for a couple of months. And it does a whole bunch of features, but the one that I use most is it actually will take a bitmap image, like a photograph. Bitmap image is everything's made up of dots. That's the idea. And it'll trace it and allow me to turn it into a vector, that means I can basically scale it as big as I want, and it loses no resolution. It's black and white only, but it's actually really cool for creating like clip arts and things to put in like elements for logos and things like that. And because I am someone who really benefits from people who make their stuff available as a Creative Commons type license, I really feel a responsibility to contribute back to that community. And so this year, my best ones that I create using Adobe CC, I'm putting up on openclipart.org, which is a neat site for stuff that you can go and get clip art. Although You should use clip art extremely sparingly as small elements of things. Please don't put 400 clip arts on on one slide. But these are all my contributions so far, so it's kind of nice. And I've actually broken the top 1,000 contributors for openclipart.org, so that makes me happy. There we go.
All right, cool. Sorry, I had myself muted. I was taking.
I'm trying to figure out why is there no sound. Am I even talking to anybody?
Yeah.
Stop screen.
All right. Anybody have any questions about those? All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
All right, go for it.
Well, my first one is really just curbing my desire for tech and buying new stuff, because I realized I spent a lot of money on tech last year. And like towards the end of 2015, I finally switched over to iPhone. So this year, in 2016, I got the 12-inch iPad Pro, returned it after a while just because it didn't fit my workflow. But I eventually got the smaller iPad Pro, the Pencil, switched over to Apple Watch, and bought a MacBook Pro. And so I'm kind of to a point now where I've got a lot of tech and I just need to use what I have and not lust after the latest and greatest, because what I have is going to be usable for the next couple of years. And so just really learning to use what I have to the best of my ability until I really can't push it any further.
Yeah, that's really hard. If you're like probably all of us in that that techno lust is rampant and big in your life, and it really is basically just breaking the 10th commandment. And so I struggle with that in a big way, and so that's something I've kind of wanted to try to do this year as well, is to say, you've got plenty, you don't need any more right now.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
For me, it's talking to Antoine. He's good at talking me down quite a bit.
That's good. Yeah. Accountability partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
That's the main thing, really, is just kind of having some accountability and knowing that I'm not going to spend the money on this, and actually having a plan to put that money towards other things that are going to be more beneficial.
Yeah. And over the last year, Wes, you said your accountability partner is your wife. She
she says no.
She says no. And you have that dynamic in your relationship. Antoine, what do you tell him when he calls you and says, hey, I'm going to go buy this, or I want to buy this? What do you tell him?
So what are you going to use it for? How does it improve? So, because that's I think I've nailed the whole techno lust thing. I can want a whole lot of things, but you don't really go for things if it does not positively improve the life of somebody in your life that you're supposed to improve their life. It's the point. The point of the gospel is love your neighbor as you love yourself, amongst the other commandments that are tossed out there. And so, if the things that we do with our technology doesn't make somebody else's life better, why should we lust after it?
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe even ask, if you really struggle with this, maybe it'd be a good idea to force yourself, say, I can't make a purchase until I write down the answer to those questions. Yeah. And then give it to somebody. And if they're not convinced, I give them the permission to say, no, you can't have that.
Well, and actually, Kevin, I would
say that again, Antoine.
That's what happens with LaRosa and I. We tend to make lists of what works and what doesn't work. I purchased an iPhone 7 last year with the intention of waiting until an iPhone 8, actually. But I had a 7-page, 8-page Evernote document that had my pluses and minuses of what was it going to be used for, what was it not going to be used for, how much was it going to cost, how much was I going to save, how much was it not going to save, what's the long term, am I going to give it away eventually, am I going to use it until it dies? All of these pieces that have to be answered before a purchase can happen.
Yeah, and the other question too is, does the device that I already have do what I'm trying to do with this new one? And if it does, then why do I need the new one?
Mm-hmm. And Kevin, as your list thing and what Antoine said, we talk about that with tech, but I actually think that's a great thing to use across the board, especially as pastors. Because I've had that. I remember having conversations here at Central where people wanted to do something, and I agreed with them that I thought it was a good idea to do, and I drug people through the muck trying to go, why do you want this? Or what's your point in doing this? And if the thing was because I like it, then I would table it to come back and find me some good reason to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was a transformative exercise for a lot of the leadership of our congregation, because they've been locked in that, well, we want this, they want that, and somebody has to win for a really long time. And this helped us break the cycle of that lose-lose situation, to where now it was more like, well, wait a minute, what is the point of all this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was an interesting shift.
Yeah, the doing things with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, LaRosa, yeah, have any others?
Yeah, and the other ones actually tie into this as far as curbing tech lust is figuring out how to get the most out of what I already have. So like I've got the iPad Pro, I've got the Apple Pencil, and I use them for work. I use the iPad Pro pretty much every Sunday for taking notes at church and even taking notes in the office, but figuring out more ways that I can make use of it and actually push what I'm doing with it. Actually, like some of the things that Wes has started doing now that he's got his pencil, and thinking about trying to do some of those things and doing more writing. And that's another one too, is using Scrivener a lot more and figuring out how to use that in my workflow and actually put together some pieces to actually help other Christians and pastors maybe use it in their workflow. I've got some ideas around that I might try to work on later this year. But yeah, really just trying to take what I have and make the most of it and push it as far as I can. Like the tweet that I put in our chat earlier today was about figuring out how to take marginal notes while studying the Bible and actually link it from one app to the other, because I know that no Bible app right now has the ability for me to handwrite my notes. So how can I take my notes in Evernote in Split Screen or some other app and do a direct link, so that I put like an Evernote link in my Olive Tree note and I tap on that and it takes me to Evernote so I can see my notes.
Yeah, you can't go the other way, can you?
No.
Yeah.
You can with Accordance. I know you can.
Well, actually,
you can create loads.
You can with Olive Tree too. You can actually, if you know the URL structure, you can like link to a verse and have it open the app.
Is it built into Olive Tree, or do you just have to know it somehow?
You have to know it, but
okay.
I mean, it's something that we could easily post online.
Because I know also in I primarily use Logos for my Bible, and they have that feature. I don't know if they have it in the mobile app though. I don't remember if it's there. Anyway, but that's a good point. Just the side-by-side screen on the iPad Pro is a great tool for that. And a lot of Android tablets are beginning to have that. I think it's built into
it's built in the
Android 6 and 7 or 6. But anyway, all right. Antoine, you have anything for us?
No, I don't really make too many resolutions at the end of the year or beginning of the year, and that's mainly because at least from a technical standpoint, I think there's some behaviors and practices that as soon as you learn that you should do them technology-wise, you should just go ahead and do them. So one of the things I have made a better effort to do is to remind people to change their passwords to something less knowable. Not necessarily use two-factor authentication, because at least SMS-based two-factor authentication has been broken for a while, and it's not recommended even by our government, which is good, but to at least get people to thinking a little bit more consistently about the amount of digital exhaust that they have. So if it's, just as simple as, hey, listen, you had a Yahoo account, Yahoo's been hacked 12 times over. If you have something important in there, either get it out of there or, reset things, delete things, null things out, etc. If you want to get off of Facebook, there are steps that you should take to get off of it. It's not just close your account, but there are things with your data that you need to do, or just in general, if you want to use an insecure operating system, Android, then there's some stuff that you should probably, do or not do with your devices. And so, I mean, there's things like that I'm being better about reminding some folks about, because those who are not techies, they honestly shouldn't have to care. Things
But
should
they
work and be
really
secure,
do.
but that's not the case. And so, adding awareness to the pot is never a bad thing. Right.
Yahoo's been hacked 12 times, and your password since 1998 is "This is my secret." It's not that's not good. Yeah,
What's your
that's
password?
not good. Password. It's password. The most
Password
commonly
1, 2,
used
3, 4,
password
right.
ever.
My kid's
So-
birthday.
That was the great thing from Rogue One is, of course what the password to bring down the shield. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So
ABC 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, but no, that's from a general end, that would probably be a resolution. From a personal end, I went in 1 year from not Apple many things to just about Apple everything. I have Apple and Yola, Selfish, as my 2 computing platforms. There's a really good chance that I'll have something holographic in AR before the end of the year. I'll figure that out when I get here, though. And I think others should play in that space as well. Not being afraid to see what's out there, not necessarily go enjoy it. I don't think everybody should go out and put a Oculus Rift on their face and disengage from people around them. But I do think, especially those who are in leadership positions in our various communities, they need to not be afraid to see what's on the absolute edges of technology. Play with Snapchat and the stuff that comes after it. Play with Snap Spectacles. Get an understanding of what's happening at those fringes, because your Bible app isn't going to do that for you.
Yeah, the VR thing, I don't want to get into a discussion of the validity of VR, but at this point, VR is a non-starter, because I don't know. I just don't find it compelling, but maybe you do. And if you do, that's great. But what you're not saying, get into VR, you're saying that your desire is to continue being on the fringe and encourage others to do so.
Well, just pay attention to the fringe,
To see what's coming.
Yeah. Don't just have your head down, keep your eyes forward as well.
Yeah, that's good advice.
and I think
Regardless of what the looking at.
Antoine had brought up AR and not necessarily VR, which is another aspect, which is something that's completely different and yet seems the same to most people. Because I think augmented reality is, seems to people, not to you. You're not people. Augmented reality really is something that's going to come, and I think you're right. The Snap Spectacles are an interesting endeavor that's going on, and then who knows what Google's eventually going to try to do with Glass again before someone gets punched in the face, which happened a lot to people who are wearing Google Glass. But I think augmented reality is going to be a big deal, even to the point of you're going to have heads-up displays in cars sooner rather than later, and that's something that how do you utilize these spaces well?
Well, let me. Anything else as far as Antoine? As far as your
no, those would be the 2 that I would throw out there.
well, I just want to say, look.
You gonna get rid of all of that? Are you getting rid of all of that for this year?
Okay,
Seriously?
getting rid of, like on the other side, this over here, that's not mine, so I can't throw that stuff away. But but this over here, that's my garbage.
Kevin's having a giveaway sale for all of the gadgets that he has.
What I
Seriously, I'm in on that one.
I know
here,
where you
listen,
live.
honestly,
Come on
if
down
there
there.
was a simple way to do it, if there was a simple, cheap, easy way to do it, I would give away all kinds of junk today,
Is
right
that a
now.
drone back there?
Actually,
It's a piece of junk drone. It's not.
sorry, Kevin. Actually, Kevin, there is a cheap and easy way to do it, and your school district will love you for it.
No, they don't want this garbage.
Trust me.
If it was a value, they might want it, but they don't want this.
No,
Tell me why you think that my school district wants.
I think I don't say they would want everything, but you've probably got a boatload of items in there that would be very helpful for schools who have burgeoning IT programs, or at least want to.
Yeah,
have
no,
one.
there's nothing in here that anything that they would want. What I'm talking about is, let me explain what I meant. You know, there's a lot of junk back there. I just want to declutter. Okay, let me also show you that. That's looked like that for like a year now. Okay, I just want to declutter, and I need to do it. My wife and I both are sort of in the process of doing it. She's been off. She's a school teacher, so she was out of town for most of last week. She went to visit family. I wasn't able to go, but when she got back, she started doing a little bit of it down here in the basement. And so, you know, together, I'm hoping that by, you know, our spring break time and then summer when she's off, my New Year's resolution is that by the end of this year, this is going to be a wholly transformed, different kind of space that will be less cluttered. Our house is just so full of junk. We went from a 3,600 square foot parsonage to a 1,500 square foot parsonage, and we never really we got rid of furniture, but as far as personal belongings, we didn't really get rid of a lot, and then we kept collecting junk. So, and then what I do, the reviews and things like that, I can't sell this stuff because that's unethical. You know, you get it free stuff from someone. I can't sell it. I won't sell it, but I would like to give it away. But, you know, I'm in a rural area, so, you know, there's not a lot of people who are like clamoring for some of the things that I have that I could give away. They look at it and they go, what is that?
Do you have an inventory list?
No, that's my problem. I'm not that organized.
I would say, because if you can make an inventory of some of the stuff that you have, I mean, I do actually know the YMCA in your neck of the woods. I'm pretty certain that they would use, you know, some items, you know,
Well,
for their programs. I mean,
here's one thing. I get a lot of things in Amazon boxes, and Amazon has that deal now where if you just put it in an Amazon box and they'll give you a label and you can just get rid of it. The next time I get one of these big Amazon boxes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start loading a bunch of junk in it. And
there you go. You know, or you can just, you know, call the local, whoever does electronics recycling in your area.
As long as they would come pick it up and get it. But see, I got to get it organized first. So that's my thing. I want to get some of this stuff organized.
So over the course of 2017, we're going to be watching that basement transform.
I hope. Now, I
mean,
bet it'll come in
and
fits
if you're
and
not
spurts.
doing it, we're going to see you in your church office over the course of 2017.
No, what I think will happen is it'll come in fits and spurts. You know, like there'll be a week where I'll just do a whole bunch, and then nothing will happen for 3 months, and then there'll be another week where I'll do a whole bunch, and then nothing will happen. So anyway, so that's mine. But you know, that wasn't really a New Year's resolution because, like you, Antoine, I don't really make New Year's resolutions. I gave that up a long time ago because I don't know. They just don't. I just have a bad record with discipline as far as those things. What I also want to do is I want to add some, like you said, La Rosa, I'm sort of doing as well on some skills. You said you wanted to learn how to use some of what you have more effectively or more usefully. I want to become more skillful in some of the things that I know how to do. For example, I've been working a lot harder to become a lot more proficient in the use of some of the Bible software I have. So I've been, you know, watching more tutorials and learning and things like that because I want to become more proficient with it, use some of the more advanced features that I know would benefit me a great deal. And then in other areas, you know, maybe some technology, some software. I'd like to become a much better editor of, you know, videos and photos. And so I'm going to be reinvestinginlinda.com. I think that's a great service for studying. There's a lot of free stuff online, but I just like the way it works in Lynda.
Check your
It's
library.
worth 25 bucks a month to me. What's that?
To check your library and see if they offer subscription to Lynda. Because I know, like here in Spokane, the city library actually has a Lynda subscription. So if you're a library member, you can access it for free.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. I may have to do that. I have my doubts about sleepy rural Burke County, but I may be pleasantly surprised. So I'll look into that. That would save me 25 bucks a month, you know.
There you go.
But I'm willing to pay the 25 bucks because I think their tutorials are great. Also, my son wants to get into photography, and they have a lot. I mean, professionally, he's actually done some professional photography shoots already in some limited way. He's done some photo shoots for about 3 or 4 different families in the last couple months. So it would benefit him as well if he's disciplined enough to take advantage of it.
And I think another thing to add too, as far as like decluttering, just for like other people in general, is declutter digitally as well. It's like I constantly go through my computer and look at files like, why do I still have this file? I'll never even use this. I had nothing that even opens it anymore. So why do I still have this file? So just going through and cleaning up some of that stuff too.
That's a good point. I could manage to do that, but that's not as important because it doesn't take up as much space. You know, as storage has become unlimited almost, that's not as big a deal. But, you know, you talked about Yahoo being hacked. I mean, that for a while, I mean, I was a Flickr Pro member before they changed the way that worked. And you know, my primary way of archiving my photos, aside from putting them on a disc, I used to use CDs before that. Learned out the hard way that was unreliable. But I would put everything on Flickr, and that's probably not a good idea anymore. Although, you know, if they hack into my photos on Flickr, I mean, I guess I could post some pretty bad stuff, but I don't use Yahoo for anything else. But anyway, so that's mine. Declutter and become more proficient in some of my technology skills.
Cool.
All right. So the second round of this is we've already done some of this, but do you have a recommendation? I say for church, but it's really just for any, you know, let's phrase it this way. You're at church and you see a problem that needs to be solved or fixed or improved upon, whether it be at your church or some of your church members, your friends that are in your church or whatever. Give some advice. How would you help other people? What would you recommend that they make as a New Year's resolution regarding technology? Who wants to go first on that?
Oh, I actually just thought of one.
Go for it.
Because it actually goes with ABC and J recently. Know your limitations. It's for a church community.
Okay.
And I guess it goes into what I was talking about last week too. You don't have to do everything. Just because Church XYZ is doing, you know, 14 billion things with technology or has this on their website, you don't have to do that. Just find the 2 or 3 things that you do really, really well. And if there's a technological translation of those things, or a digital translation of those things, communicate them. So you don't have to do 4 billion things and compete with megachurch down the street. You just have to tell your own story as well as you can as a congregation. So that way you're not always dealing with an inferiority complex. We're not as good as these guys. You're actually going, hey, we do some pretty cool stuff and this is fun.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Good
that's great advice, in fact, regardless of whether it's for tech or just, you know, the way you organize your church or the things you do, the ministries you attempt to do. That's great advice across the board in church.
All right, so I have one, you know, just based on a good group of folks that I met a couple nights ago. 23-hour North Carolina trips are great. but in the middle of some gameplay, one of the questions was name a book of the Bible, and me and my beautifully smart alecky self named a book from the Apocrypha, because that's what you're supposed to do when you're around people who you're not sure what they read. But it became a very interesting conversation with that group. They were all from the same church, but they only understood literally the branch of Christianity that they came from. They didn't even understand all of Protestantism. They literally just understood their small branch. So it's, as a resolution, I would say find ways to get to know what the rest of the body looks like. Whether or not you believe them or not is a whole different can of beans. But get to understand what the entire body looks like, not just what your local community looks like. Because we've got a mosaic in this body. The history and the present of this church is beautiful and flawed. And we could do a whole lot more together if we understood where we all came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's more general than tech, but it's still great advice. LaRosa?
Well, I mean, I could tell them to go ahead and download the Ethiopian canon of the Bible, which is what I told that group. But they never wanted to do that.
Well, if you want to make it a tech spin, go online and learn more about the others or something.
Yes, and the interesting thing about the Ethiopian canon, it's the only canon that was not affected by the Muslim conquest, and it's the largest one.
It's the best one, man. It is the best one. It's
there you go.
My personal Bible reader, the one I.
Okay.
And Bella the Dragon is a really weird book.
Yeah,
ain't it?
Just putting it out there for you.
and go learn about other churches. If you're not a pastor who is, has to attend the same church for 48 to 50 weeks out of the year, maybe on occasion go experience another congregation of another, I was going to say brand. That's not the right term, but
another brand. Oh dear.
So, you know what I mean? Another denomination, another tradition, or something like that. It's kind of fun to do that. Just as a funny story, along the same lines of what you were talking about, Antoine. We used to, my former church was in Dallas, North Carolina, and we had a ministerial association, and there were about 6 churches that were active in it, and of those 6, 3 were Lutheran, and 2 were Baptist, and then there was a charismatic church, or not a charismatic, they were Foursquare. And what's that?
That would be a fun meeting.
Yeah, it was interesting. We enjoyed it. There were 3 or 4 other churches that would occasionally come in with us, but when we had our community Thanksgiving and Good Friday service, we would rotate it between the 6 churches that were primarily involved. And so one year it was at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, and the pastor got up to do the reading. I don't remember if this was Thanksgiving or we also did a graduation baccalaureate service for the local high school. I don't remember which one of the services it was, but he did his reading from Tobit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm Southern Baptist. All of my people are Southern Baptist. A good half of the people in the room were definitely not Lutherans. Yes. And don't believe Tobit is inspired, Word of God. And so it was a little bit strange.
That really forces you to start talking about, what exactly is our theology of Scripture, and why do we think this is authoritative and that's not? And it's an interesting concept.
For my benefit, I have done that, and that's one of the, I've been the pastor of 4 churches. In every one of my 4 churches, sometime in the first year that I'm there, we talk about how did we get the Bible, because I think that's a foundational idea. But anyway, so that just was an aside, little something extra.
But
to go along
that's a great illustration though of why it's helpful.
Yeah. And getting together to worship with people of other faiths, or even just other churches of your same faith, because not all churches are the same.
Especially among Baptists.
Yeah, because we're so stubbornly autonomous, and you know, to
We're a
the,
bunch of cats. That's what we are. We're herding cats.
yeah.
Um,
All right. La Rosa, do you have one?
Yeah. Mine's a little snarky, but if your church website looks like it's from 1990 or like the mid 90s
Yeah.
and built on GeoCities, you should probably look into getting a new website.
If it was done
That's
at
good, man,
Microsoft
'cause I
front
thought you were going to say
page,
Angel Fire
please change it.
or Lycos,
So-
man. Because if you said Angel Fire or Lycos, man, I'd have felt really bad. But since I was using those instead of GeoCities, I'm good.
Yeah, or if the latest
Mm.
post in your WordPress blog on your website is "Help us ring in 2009,"
Time to get an update.
time to update. That's so
And-
hard.
and,
I'm
this
bad
this
about
goes.
that.
Yeah, well, this, you know what, this goes back to my know your limitations. You do not have to self-host your website. You do not have to, you know, you don't have to have all the latest and greatest whiz bangs. For a number of churches, having a WordPress.com account and spending whatever it is for a pro or premium account right now will do you just fine. And
Yep.
if you want to spend a little bit more than that, something like Squarespace is perfect for you.
Yep. And you don't need
Let
a
the heavy lifting be done by somebody else.
Yep, and you don't need a blog. Just put on like the basic information about like where they can find you, what to wear, like service times, and
What to wear? What?
There's some-
Yes, you have to put what to wear on some church sites.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
Because some churches, it matters what you wear, and other churches, it matters what you wear.
Yeah. But if you do not put your
Okay.
address on your front page of your church's website, you should burn in hell.
Yeah. Well, and just
And
before we started, I told the story of we have had multiple guests at our church in the last 6 months that I've asked them, "Hey, we're glad you're with us today. Did you come at the invitation of somebody?" And they said, "No, I found you through your website."
Mm-hmm. Well,
And-
more and more than that, it's the new yellow pages.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
People are-
Facebook is a great way, by the way, to advertise in your local area. I did a
Sure.
Facebook ad for our church. I just wanted to test it. I spent like $20 on a
Mhm.
Facebook ad, and it ran for like 6 days, I think it was. And the next Sunday, we had 4 guests, all of whom found us through the Facebook site.
Pretty
And I
good.
thought, wow, so I do that pretty regularly whenever we have big events or something special. I do a
even
Facebook
like
ad.
setting up a Facebook group for your church is something beneficial too. Because I mean, if you're a smaller church and you don't have money for like mass communication type stuff, I mean, it's free right there for you to use.
Hey, and you could get a hover.com domain and have it redirect to your
To your
Facebook
Facebook.
Facebook page, and that could be your website. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's better than nothing,
That's
right?
well, it's in a lot of sense. It's better than a lot of what people have
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And the another thing too, I would say is, if possible, find a way to get your sermons online for people to hear.
What do you recommend using?
YouTube.
Yeah, you could use YouTube. There's SoundCloud, where I mean both of those you can upload stuff for free, and you really don't even need a lot of equipment. I mean, like if you have a cell phone, you can record the audio from yourself on the cell phone.
What? Did La Rosa just say record from a cell phone?
Yep.
Hallelujah. The boy
But make sure it's good audio.
I record for myself.
I mean, work hard at getting good audio. It's not very expensive
Yeah.
to get
mean, it's
good
not-
audio.
Yeah.
You
it's
have a
not very hard to get.
recommendation, any of you guys, for recording good audio on your iPhone?
I have an audio memos app that I really like. That was like $5. So that's
What about a microphone?
Well, I had one that plugged into the headphone jack, and then whatever Apple did with iOS 10 screwed up, and I just ordered a USB mic, and that sounded terrible. So now I don't know what I'm doing. I'm actually at this point, I am very much wondering if I want to even keep putting my sermons online, which is very, very different. And it's mostly because I've just seen so many churches become the pastor show, and
Yeah, but
and I've seen it between and churches that aren't the pastor show are the musician show, and that's what the churches go for. And I don't know if I want to play in that world.
I don't
That's
think
just-
I
that's
don't
just
think
where
you
I
need
am.
to worry about that, Wes. We know you well enough to know that that's never going to be you. but here's some good
No,
reasons.
no, no. But I just don't want to play in the world, is what I'm saying. I know it won't be.
Here's two good reasons to do it. Number one, guests often want to sample your church before they come, and that's a good way to do it. And number two,
I won't believe
your members,
if there's no audio.
your members sometimes, if they're sick, they're ill, or
They like to have a
whatever,
backup.
they can jump online.
I have my text available to anybody who always wants it, and if I'm doing a special series that I've really worked hard to plan out, I'll record that. If I want to save that for posterity, I don't know if I'm going to do it weekly. It's just something I'm kind of going for. But yeah, those are good points. So.
Well, and another tip is, what we're doing right now is a live streaming on YouTube. That's one way you can get your sermons online, is live stream it through YouTube. And if you also want to post the audio somewhere, after the thing is over, whoever your volunteer is, don't make your pastor do this, whoever your volunteer is that's in charge of handling this can then download the YouTube.
And change the audio, get the audio out. And
split the audio and the video in whatever video editing package you have, and export the MP3, tag it, use some kind of simple ID3 tagging. It's built into Windows and Mac. I think it's Mac. You can do it right inside, just simple tags, the title, the date, brief, here's what it is, and find a place to upload it, SoundCloud or your own personal website. That's how we do our audio version.
That's how I put the audio out when I
sermonaudio.com.
Sermon audio is one way.
For us, I download it and throw it in a Dropbox, and the guy who does the thing, pulls it out and does the trims and sticks it on our WordPress blog.
Yeah, that's a great way to share.
My big problem with live streaming right now is that we just don't have the bandwidth to go out. We're still on DSL.
Yeah,
So,
I would say most churches shouldn't even bother with live streaming.
It's totally see for me, and that's one of the interesting things is the idea of sampling the church, but it's the sermon. And if you come to, and Antoine's been at my church, the sermon's such a small part of our entire worship experience. It's an important part, but it's just such a very minuscule sample of the entire experience, and I don't even know if live streaming would get what our church is about, which is
it
strange.
could, but for a church like yours, Wes, or to some extent like Kevin's, larger than that, you would need something along the lines of a YouTube Live, Facebook Live kind of approach, where people have personal devices and they're panning from one thing to the other, and you're really getting the audience perspective, not the producer's perspective, but the audience perspective. That's where live streaming really tends to have its better meat, for those folks who want a preview of what it feels like a community may feel like. At least
you mentioned Facebook Live. That's a great way to do it, by the way. I know you're talking right now about not doing it, but Facebook Live is a good way to do it for someone who has simple needs or small budgets.
Now, I will say this. Can I throw in one thing, because I know we've been talking about sharing media. We talked about being more responsive digitally. If your church is sharing any content online, or you have people uploading things online, you should have a digital media policy that your church that your community knows about. Who's okay to share stuff, who's not okay to share stuff, if you got a staff for that kind of items. But if you're a smaller church and it's only a few folks that are able to touch things, what are the policies for who gets recorded, what gets recorded, how long does it stay on somebody's computer or not computer, how long does the church have it, can they use it for marketing, can they not use it for marketing, just something simple. Because and you guys will see the article that I just put in our channel. You put something on Facebook through its terms of service says we can use this for anything. We can use it for marketing, we can cut it, we can crop it, we can change it, we can change the names, we can attribute it to anything, blah, 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 blah. We can take it down if we want to.
This is why my pictures go on SmugMug.
Yeah, so as a church, you need to have that policy, especially if you're going to be using other services to host your content or to push your content online. you may use a free WordPress.com site, but you have no control over the ads that show on that site.
That's why you do the paid one.
Well, you do need to be careful about those ads. I've told the story on
you need to
here
do the
about when
paid
we
one.
used to use Ustream and they had half-naked women
That's always
Right.
fun.
So
in a pre-roll ad.
You need to have a digital media policy, and especially, even if you don't have a policy because of the things you're uploading, you're just as, Kevin, you talked about, walking through why we read the Bible as a tenet that you go through every few years. You really need to have why we share content the way we do, with the world kind of approach. What is it that people understand about, hey, we're sharing this sermon or we share these assets online. This is our expectations based on our community's rules of what this is going to look like. Because if you don't have that kind of digital media policy, folks leave themselves wide open for everything. I mean, some of you've got foster kids in your communities. What if they showed up on a video and they weren't supposed to? Some folks, may have uploaded a video talking about the church budget and they thought they were just putting it into a private YouTube account, but it went to a public account. How do you handle stuff like that? So, I mean, you gotta have some of that stuff spelled out.
If you're incorporated, a church budget's public anyway.
Or at least it should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
So, hey,
let me throw mine out real quick.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Go ahead, Wes.
No, you go first because I'm just showing off.
Okay. Mine is
something useful.
Mine is just a simple thing. This is something we did recently at our church. I discovered that someone was pulling up into our parking lot and using our guest network. It was someone I didn't know who they were or why they were doing it. And so I said, we need to be a lot more careful about this. And so basically I took it as an opportunity to, and by the way, at the exact same time, our church router died. And so we got a much more robust church router. And you're laughing. Are you laughing because you're thinking maybe the two had something to do with one another?
Oh yes, I think the two.
Okay, and that's possible. I didn't even think about it until I heard you giggle, and I thought, you know what? I wonder if he thinks they did something to do with each other, and maybe they did. So anyway, I got a more robust router that had better security features, and then I locked it down, and so you don't get on our church's Wi-Fi without a password. Now, it's a password I willingly give out. One of the networks to all of the people. That network is walled off from our church's computer, our worship computer, and my personal computer. And then there's a second network that is public. Not public in the sense that it's open, but public in the sense that we're broadcasting the SSID. But that one is locked down with a pretty good password that no one gets. There's only about 3 or 4 people that get the password to that, and that one is going to be changed on a very regular basis, like at least monthly.
I would even change the guest network password.
Well, we probably will change that one regularly, but maybe not as often. And in fact, the password that I'm using is a secret word, along with right now it's the year, and I was going to change it every year. I'm thinking about adding like quarter, like fall 2017, along with this secret word, and then people will just kind of know that that's the
secret word.
Yeah. So the real password would be something like headphone winter 2017. That's not it.
Kevin, Kevin, you could have kept that. You could have kept your guest network completely free and just limited your, just play with your router filtering mechanism and just only allow them to go to your site, your church's website.
Well, I want
be
people
really mean in that respect.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I want members who come in our like our youth team. They'll come in and they'll, have a something that they're wanting to show on a website as part of the youth lesson. Sometimes the young adult Sunday school class will do that as well. And so I mean, I want them to be able to do that because I trust these people. I don't think they're going to be showing stuff they shouldn't be showing to their classes. But I don't want anyone, just anybody, to be able to do what that guy was doing anymore. And so I guess what I'm saying is this, along with a greater thing, and that is do a security audit for your church's technology. Make sure your Wi-Fi password is taken care of. Make sure your network is secure. Make sure your computers are secure. Make sure your databases of information are secure and tucked away. Make sure the offices that people shouldn't be getting into those computers, make sure they're behind lock and key when the person who uses that computer on a regular basis isn't present. Just be careful with your stuff, because we joke about the Yahoo, but what about your church? If you've got even just 50 members or 5,000 members, if they're giving to your church, there may be some sensitive data in that database that could potentially put them at risk if you allow that out, and now you're liable for that as a church. So be careful.
Don't use a non-password protected database. That's a very good resolution.
Yeah.
17.
And one of the
AKA
things I hear from
spreadsheets
people
don't work.
all the time is, well, how do I remember all these passwords? I'm so sick and death of it.
One password.
One password or LastPass.
Oh gosh.
I personally prefer LastPass.
No. You don't tell them that.
Yes, I do.
No, you work on their memory. You tell them to go out and memorize a couple verses and invent the password between those verses. That's right. Spiritual lessons plus passwords.
Yeah, I don't agree
One
with that
password. Sorry, Anton.
One password is no. I'm not saying that one password and all is bad,
lost
but
me
the
there.
best passwords are passphrases. And,
Right.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
there's
But I
nothing
use
better.
a good complex password to
Yes.
lock down my LastPass account, and then I use LastPass and create impossible to remember or figure out passwords for all my websites. And
I'm saying
important
all you
things.
guys got to use is Gospel of Thomas, chapter 1, verse 7 as your password. No one will ever figure that out.
Well, maybe.
Nah, that's actually pretty. That's easy to figure out.
Yeah, that's very bad advice. I hope he's kidding. If he's not kidding, don't
If
listen.
you're going to create a passphrase, you need to make it nonsense. Like checker shed seagrass wheat 4 exclamation point. Something like that.
That's what I do.
That literally is not one of my passwords. I'm just putting that out there.
That's what I do for websites or for things I really am not that worried. I'm not that worried about.
But those are strong. I mean, those are really strong
Yeah.
passwords. If you stick something like that in front of a password strength monitor, it's going to tell you. It's incredible. It's a Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, don't let me interrupt. Did I miss anything?
Yeah,
Everything.
we're about to hang up. I'll
Wait a
talk to you
minute.
later.
Who is this guy, and how did he get into our hangout?
But
I
I was
mean,
wondering
he
if it would
hacked it.
show up. I just saw you
He
post
needed
about
the
the
password.
password on Facebook. So I mean,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm home. We just got home. I unloaded the car or
let's
the truck.
introduce-
We're in 2 vehicles.
Our newest joinee, who has unfortunately been MIA for a month, and,
I'm so sorry.
and that's Rick Mansfield. In fact, I was questioning his manhood. I mean, his dedication earlier.
I was afraid the tribe was going to vote me off the island or something.
Well, we have something we need to talk to you about after the show.
Okay.
No, we're glad you joined
He's
us.
firing me.
We're
Yeah.
giving our technology New Year's resolutions, and we
Great.
just finished talking about churches should do a security audit. And
Yeah,
so,
everyone should.
Yeah. So,
I
what
agree.
about you? Have you got something you want to throw in here in these last couple of minutes?
A couple of quick things. Picking up on security. One thing I'm going to do in the next week or two. This is the difficult thing. Is I already use different passwords now for just about anywhere that I go in. I've been doing that for a while, but I have a main password that I use for my Apple ID that controls multiple devices, and I have a separate ID that I use to log into this device that I'm talking to you on. I'm going to change both of those, and those are the hard ones because those are the ones I have to have memorized, and they have to be complicated. So I do have a method, but I'm not going to announce it on the internets. So. But I encourage people to do that. Even the ones that you think are very good, change them now and then. So
Yep,
that's my security advice and personal resolution. The other thing for me is to simplify. Has anyone talked about that?
Yes.
just and that goes with a lot of things. I could put that at a lot of levels, but even whereas this past year I've been working from both a Macintosh and a Windows computer. With my new Mac, it allows me, the Windows runs faster on my new Mac than it does on the Windows machine. So I'm going to consolidate down just to this machine, and there's other things like that too. Even down to software. And I think, Kevin, you said something. I think I caught one of the discussions before the show began about reducing clutter. There's software, there's clutter, there's hardware clutter, those kinds of things. So I definitely want to do that as well, and just try to make life simpler all around.
Well, you've got a huge hard drive, so you can actually do that now.
Yes, I can. That makes a big difference.
Well, guys, I think this has been a good discussion.
You have to let me show off, though.
Go ahead, show off.
Let me do show. So Antoine, one of the favorite things that our church has ever done that Antoine loves is we raised money to get little Miss Peg, who is like 90 years old now, an iPad Air 2.
She's so awesome.
To replace her aging iPad 2. And one of the things that she likes to do with it is preach. So on New Year's Day, there she is at our church. There is like 20 people there. We had more people for Christmas, which was really awesome. And she's got her iPad up there. And I offered her to sit in a chair and be like a rabbi of old or stand at the podium. And she's like, well, I need some place to put my iPad. And she shared with us a wonderful message on, it was basically on, our infatuation with big is probably not actually rooted in the gospel.
There you go.
And she reminded us to be very, very simple and happy with the wonderful, simple things. So isn't that kind of neat?
Man, I wish I'd have known. I showed up for that one.
Very nice.
There she was.
She got against Notorious Big.
I need to put that on the Olive Tree blog.
She was such a neat lady, and she was using the Olive Tree Reader because that's
Cool.
that's what she uses.
Yeah,
So-
you really should put that on the Olive Tree blog. That's pretty neat, actually.
So,
Hey, let me just
so
give
that's
you
my
guys
show off.
Rick, you were talking about you're going primarily Mac. You're getting rid of your Windows machines, I guess.
Well,
Is that
I'm
what you're
still
saying?
using Windows. I'm just going to consolidate it down to one machine.
Right. You're just going to put it all on one machine. I'm sort of going in the opposite direction, even though I'm using a Mac for the show tonight. I'm probably, or at least possibly, going to be getting rid of both of my Macs. And because of that, I've also, you talk about the Simplify. I pay for a monthly subscription to the full Adobe Creative Cloud. But this, I caught my eye. Adobe Photoshop Elements is in the Mac or in the Windows store for $69.99. That's essentially 3 months of the full price of the academic version of the Creative Cloud that I use. And so I went ahead and picked it up. There's 7 days remaining. So if you're watching this before, today is January the 3rd, and you're a Windows user, you can install this on up to 10 machines for this price, which is very nice, because if you buy Adobe Photoshop Elements elsewhere, you're only going to be able to put it on 2 machines. So for you Windows people out there, I want to recommend this is a pretty decent version of Photoshop, and you're not having to pay a monthly subscription to anyone if you want to use this. Now, you'd get rid of Lightroom, which I'm going to keep and still use, and I use Premiere, so I'm trying to figure out a way to replace that. But the fact that my Adobe only works on 2 computers, this will allow me to also do quick Photoshop editing on 10 more systems, that as long as they're Windows. So I can do it on the Sanctuary computer, my office computer, my laptop, any review units that I have in store. So,
And Kevin, last time I used Photoshop Elements, it did the vast majority of everything I needed Photoshop for. It's something I always recommend too. And I just looked, it's in the Mac App Store for the same price.
oh, is it?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I wish there was a way I could buy it on both
Yeah.
for the same price. Photoshop won't let you do that.
No.
If you go directly to Photoshop and buy it from them, you can only install it on 2 PCs. or computers. A combination of two total, which is, I don't know. If I own 4 computers, I should be able to install it on all 4 as long as I don't use it on all 4 at the same time.
But the Windows version, you can do that. Is that what you're saying? You can install on
if
multiples?
it's in the Windows App Store, you can install it. I think it's 10 computers. You can install all of them on up to 10 computers. So that's a good reason to buy it there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's really all the time we've got for tonight. This was, I think, fun and enjoyable. We don't have a topic aligned for the next couple of weeks, and so just tune in and find out what we're going to do. As always, please subscribe to us here on YouTube. And I'll tell you one more thing. I've always said that we are on Stitcher Radio. We are not. There's something wrong with Stitcher Radio. They're causing all kinds of trouble. And so it's not working. I didn't realize that until just this week. I went in to kind of make sure everything was working. And we haven't been on Stitcher Radio since October. And there's absolutely no support whatsoever unless you pay them money, which I won't be doing. So I don't think we'll be finding out what's wrong or how to get it fixed anytime soon. But we are on the Google Play Store. We are in iTunes, which most people will be able to get us. And then, and I've just forgotten the name of the service. There's another service sort of like Stitcher that most of the major podcast apps will get, the feeds from. So you can still find us on almost any major podcasting app, the audio version of our program. And so we recommend that you subscribe, and also please, if you like the show, go to those various places and say, thumbs up, we love it. And if you want to comment on the YouTube video, which also shows up in Google Plus still, I just found out, because we had a Google Plus comment on a recent video, even though I think Google Plus is nearly dead. But there are, 12 people still using it. So those 12, about 3 of them seem to watch this show through the link on Google Plus. So
great potential.
That's great, isn't it? Yeah, any way they can find us is good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Go to theotech.com and find all the links on how to subscribe and how to comment and how to interact with us. We'd love to hear from you if you've got ideas, or hey, you might even be asked to come and join us and be a guest on the show. We'd love to have you do that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We're gonna sign off. And thanks for joining us late, Rick. We're glad you're here.
But look, I'm the only one with my lower third up.
Yeah.
You're the only, it doesn't work on my system anymore.
We're the only one that it doesn't break on.
Weird.
We are capable to do it. All right. Good night.